We have one item on the agenda to approve the minutes of June 21st Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Could I get a motion to adopt the agenda? Or, I'm sorry, that's the consent agenda. Never mind. We have no changes to the agenda. Could I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
Madam Chair, so moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, the next item is the consent agenda, and we have one item on the consent agenda. It's the approval of minutes for June 21st. So could I get a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So at this time, we'd like to briefly explain the public hearing process for this evening. We'll open each item individually and then start with the staff report. The staff will report their findings regarding how the item adheres to our comprehensive plan and the Uniform Development Code with the staff's recommendations. After the staff has made their presentation, the applicant will come forward to present their case for approval of their application and respond to any staff comments. The applicant will have 15 minutes to do so. After the applicant has finished, we will open to public testimony. There is a sign-up, used to say sheet, but it is a sign-up iPad in the back as you entered for anyone wishing to testify. Any person testifying will come forward and be allowed 3 minutes. If they are speaking for a larger group like an HOA and there's a show of hands to represent that group, they will be given up to 10 minutes. After all testimony has been heard, the applicant will be given another 10 minutes to have the opportunity to come back and respond if they desire. And then after that, we will close the public hearing and the commissioners will have the opportunity to discuss and hopefully be able to make a recommendation to City Council. So at this time, we'd like to open the public hearing for H-2018-0051, Crumline Park, and we'll begin with the staff report. And I apologize if I didn't pronounce that correctly.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. Creamline Park.
Thank you.
Applications for comprehensive plan map amendment and a rezone. This site consists of 8.06 acres of land, zone CG, located on the north side of West Franklin Road, just east of Linder Road. Adjacent land use and zoning to the north and east is industrial property zoned IL. To the south is West Franklin Road and single-family residential property zoned R4. And to the west is vacant undeveloped land zoned CC. This property was annexed into the city in 2006 and included in the subdivision plat for Creamline Park subdivision. A development agreement was required as a provision of annexation. The comprehensive plan future land use map designation currently is mixed use community. The applicant proposes to amend the future land use map in the comprehensive plan to change the land use designation on approximately 8.06 acres of land from mixed use community to the industrial designation. The amendment is desired so that the applicant can develop industrial rather than commercial uses on the property. Much of the area between 10 Mile Road and the city's east boundary, just west of Cloverdale Road, south of the railway corridor, consists of industrial uses with some commercial uses fronting on Franklin Road. The applicant's request is based on the adjacent industrial uses and zoning to the north and east and the shortage of light industrial property in the city. A rezone of 8.74 acres of land is also proposed from the CG to the IL zoning district, consistent with the proposed future land use map designation of industrial. Although no development is proposed at this time, the applicant plans to develop the site with warehouse and/or flex space type uses, which are listed as a principal permitted use in the IL zoning district. There is an existing development agreement for this site that governs future development. Because the property is zoned CG and was previously planned to develop with commercial uses, the development agreement does need to be amended consistent with the proposed zoning and industrial use of the property. And an application for an amendment was submitted a couple days ago to the city for that. So it will be heard by the council with the subject rezone and comp plan and map amendment applications. Written testimony has been received from Brad Miller, the applicant, in agreement with the staff report, and staff is recommending approval with the requirement of an amendment to the development agreement. Staff will stand for any questions.
Any questions for staff? Okay. Would the applicant like to come forward?
My name is Brad Miller with Van Acker Properties, 3084 East
Chris a minute. Okay.
There we go. Brad Miller, Van Auker Properties, 3084 East Lanark in Meridian. Thank you very much for taking your time this evening. We agree with everything that the staff report said. Originally, we thought that we could do commercial uses there, but there's just no demand for commercial. So what we're going to do is go in and put some flex space in there, spec, and build it out and hopefully lease it out. We've developed all the 6 lots to the north, and the demand there's been very strong. We're 100% occupied there with our industrial uses. So we're industrial guys and more comfortable with that, so we ask for your approval on this tonight. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant?
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. And Chris, do we have anybody signed up?
There was nobody signed up.
Okay. With there being nobody signed up, I just want to double check, is there anybody in the room who would like to testify on this application? Okay.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Fitzgerald.
move to close the public hearing on H 2018-0051.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing on H-2018-0051. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Fitzgerald.
I think, as you can see from the north, that whole area has exploded in what the Van Auker company does, and it's very well used. And I think we don't have enough places for people to work in certain areas of the city, and so I know that they've done this on Pine Street and a couple places along the railroad tracks closer to Eagle Road, and I think it's great usage. It's low impact to the community around it, and I think it's a good thing, and I support the project.
Yeah, and I think the previous designation at the time of the designation allowed for the industrial where it doesn't now.
And it
I
doesn't
think
now.
that's
Exactly.
Yeah, so we're just kind of cleaning up the zoning. I'm in favor as well. Anybody else?
With that, Madam Chair,
Commissioner Wilson.
after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to City Council of file number H-2018-0051 as presented in the staff report, with that requirement of an amendment to the development agreement.
Okay.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded to approve file H-2018 recommend approval on H-2018-0051. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
So at this time, we'll open the public hearing for item H-2018-0057, Bainbridge, Franklin. I think.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, as you said, this is a project called Bainbridge Franklin. It is west of Linda Road on West Franklin. This is an application for annexation. The site consists of approximately 3.68 acres of land. It's currently zoned RUT, located at 2075 and 2155 West Franklin. To the north is West Franklin Road and industrial property zoned IL. To the east are the 12 Oaks Villas, zoned CC and TNR. To the south is vacant commercial property zoned CC, as well as to the west, vacant commercial property zoned CC. There's no current City of Meridian history on this property because they're requesting annexation this evening. The applicant did provide a concept plan for the development. Before I get there, though, the comprehensive plan and future land use map designation for this is mixed use commercial, which is part of the 10-mile interchange specific area plan. The applicant was requesting annexation, as I said, of 3.6 acres to the CG zoning district, which is consistent with the mixed use commercial land use designation. City may require, and is requiring, staff is recommending, I should say, a development agreement with several provisions. You can go through those if you would like. They're also in the staff report. As I mentioned, this is the concept plan provided by the applicant for the development, showing several relatively small pad sites with associated parking. Staff has the following comments on the proposed conceptual plan. The plan does not allow or show the required 25-foot landscape buffer both on the east and on the north boundary of the property against the residential and against Franklin Road. There are some existing buildings on the site. Staff has a condition that the applicant remove the structures and as well as cease the business that is currently operating there, and the structures be removed. immediately upon annexation. They're asking for access from West Franklin Road, are providing cross-access to the 12 Oaks development to the east, and staff has also added a condition that they provide cross-access to the west. Some conceptual building elevations provided by the applicant. And with that, they'd have to get a certificate of zoning compliance and administrative design review application before they were allowed to construct any businesses or structures on the property. We did restrict the number and type of uses that they would be allowed to have on the property. Staff is recommending approval. Did not receive any comments. With that, I'll stand for any questions you have.
Any questions for staff? Would the applicant like to come forward?
Good evening, Madam Chair. Hello. There you go. Good evening, Madam Chair and Commission. Sean Nickel, P.O. Box 1595, Eagle, Idaho. I'm here tonight representing Steve Bainbridge, the owner of the property. Staff has done a good job at the analysis for the project. We are in favor of all of the conditions with the exception of condition, on your page 23, condition 1-1-1E. We would like to keep those existing structures on the property while Mr. Bainbridge markets the property for redevelopment. There are 2 houses on the property at this time that bring in income for Mr. Bainbridge. So we would ask that condition be removed and allow us to retain those 2 structures and the uses on the property until development. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Fitzgerald.
What would be a time frame?
Turn your mic on, please.
Thank you. What would be a time frame that would be acceptable? Because I think there's got to be a balance between when you get into development, you kind of got to get in and or you got to get it out. And that's kind of, so what would be an acceptable, and so I can bounce it off staff for you guys. Time frame wise, what are you guys looking at? It's got to be a balance somewhere in between getting the development going and having housing there.
Madam Chair and Mr. Commissioner, the applicant would be willing to do a 5-year moratorium on that, or 5-year sunset on that, on those 2 uses if the property doesn't develop within that time frame.
Thank you.
I guess so. What's the urgency of getting into the city now then before it's been marketed and a real plan? Because it looks like, I mean, this plan that is shown is probably not acceptable anyway because it doesn't show the landscape buffers, the cross to the west. I mean, so we'd be not even looking at this plan. So to change the zoning and do all that now, what's the rush?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, the staff has put a condition of approval that we bring back a revised site plan prior to City Council, which we will do that. The reason for annexing and rezoning the property is so you can market it as a commercial use. It cuts off 3 or 4 months of someone having to go in and do that additional step. Not knowing if the property is appropriate for those uses. So that's one reason we're doing this right now, is so we can kind of establish what type of uses can go on the property and a basic concept plan for the property, understanding that it could change slightly depending on the user. But to establish those cross accesses now, to establish those uses now, that's why the applicant has decided to request annexation and rezone at this time.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, do we have any public testimony?
Madam Chair, only Mr. Nichols signed in to speak.
Okay. Is there anyone else, there's being no one signed in, is there anyone else in the room who would like to testify on this application? Okay. At this time, could I get a motion to, if there's no more questions for the applicant, could I get a motion to close the public hearing for item H-2018-0057?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing on H-2018-0057. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm thinking I'd like to see a little more done on it versus leaving a lot up in the air again, and especially with having potential of 5 years sitting out there,
Madam
if
Chair,
that's the request.
I guess of staff, I can't remember an instance. I know we've allowed buildings to remain on, I think, but the 5 years, that just
Not
seemed
for
like
very
a
long.
long, okay, yeah. It's a long time. Okay. Making sure I wasn't.
Just for the record, Madam Chair, Josh, what's the time frame in regards to if we approve this now or later, there's not a requirement to do anything on it anytime soon, correct? Annexation is when we have the ability we have teeth. We have.
Yeah, so what I will say is we typically don't allow folks to annex into the city and keep structures.
Yep.
Unless they're going to connect those structures immediately to city utilities. I don't believe that's their plan. And so that's why the condition in there is to remove them. And typically, that long of a sunset, I'm kind of with you on that. I don't understand what the large rush is. It will save them some time, marketing-wise, I guess, to have it be zoned commercial, but without an actual user for the property right now. I understand the rush. Anyway, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think,
Madam Chair, members of the commission, the other thing that we have to keep in mind, and what Josh alluded to in his presentation, is there currently are one in the county now, which is a residential district. If this property were to annex in, now we're creating a non-conforming use for the city because we're allowing a residential use in a commercial district if it gets approved and we have CG. We try not to create those situations for ourselves. And Josh did a great job of also letting you know that if a structure is going to stay on the site, it really needs to hook up to utilities. The other thing that didn't come up was one of the residents or one of the structures being used for a small engine repair business. I don't know if that was grandfathered in or approved through the county or not. Maybe the applicant can shed some light on that for you this evening, but that's the other thing. We don't know if that's a legitimate business or not. But again, we don't want to perpetuate that. It's not consistent with the vision of the 10-mile plan. The other thing that we pointed out in our staff report as well is that mixed-use commercial type properties are meant to be larger in size. And we recognize that this is only a small piece of the property. In our staff report and our comp plan analysis, we tried to share with you that the adjacent property owner to the west went through that process and changed their land use from what was a residential designation to this mixed-use commercial. So that's why we've conditioned the applicant through a development agreement that, yeah, we're not really keen on this concept plan. We don't think this is going to work for this property at this point. That's why we said once you have a user, come back and amend your development agreement again so we can make sure that we are setting up this property for success for development by looking at access at that point, looking at pedestrian connectivity with that larger piece to the west of this property. It really needs to all that's kind of the intent behind the mixed-use commercial designation, is that it's all being integrated as one project. And so with that particular count-on piece to the west, that's one of the conditions that staff put on that particular property. When that came before you in 2015, they had a bubble plan. They didn't have any of that refinement for you to take under consideration. So in that adjacent property owner's development agreement, they have to come back before city council and get their concept plan review, a more detailed concept plan as well. So I think in this case, yeah, the applicant may not be ready. We have things for you to take under consideration in the staff report as part of a DA, but really the applicant needs to come back at some future date to either give us a better understanding or a better concept on how this is going to relate to the adjacent properties. But we'll leave that up to you. The issues that you have tonight is the concept plan doesn't have some of the things that code requires. We don't have a lot of cross access except for the property to the east. And then we don't know how that adjacent property is going to develop at this point. So just something to consider as you take the center advisement this evening.
Yeah, I'm feeling just a little bit like we've got cart before the horse here, and that I don't think it'd be a difficult process to come in with the CG zoning at some point with a plan. But I agree, this, you know, recommending annexation into the city, which we would love to have you, but I think the plan needs to be a little farther along. 2 cents.
Madam Chair, I tend to agree as well. I think it's not necessarily a bad project, but I think they've got to do some due diligence to make sure that they meet their code requirements before they're ready to move forward. And I agree the structures probably would be a conflict if they were to remain on the site.
Yeah. And a 5-year sunset's quite a while. Yeah, a lot can happen between now and then. Anybody else, or are we ready for a motion?
Madam Chair, are you thinking you would like them to come back with a concept? Or are you thinking that we're doing something completely different? Because I agree.
I mean, it doesn't seem like they're at a point where another couple of weeks is going to do it. I mean, I think.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Pearl.
I think the ACHD report could be significantly different that far down the road as well. And that's something that, you know, how they're going to approach the entrance off of Franklin. That could look, I mean, as fast as we're growing, that could look very different even in 3 years. So that has concern for me.
Okay. Who's up? Or do we have more discussion?
I'm sure I agree. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know. I think there's yeah. I mean, I think I agree. The 5 years is, yeah, so.
Okay. Go for it.
After considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend denial to City Council of file number H-2018-0057 as presented during the hearing date of July 12, 2018, for the following reasons. The concept plan, we don't believe kind of is sort of meets our vision for the way this area is going to develop, and also the proposal that those two structures remain for 5 years, we don't, well, I guess that's not a reason. It is?
It is.
Okay. And the condition, or and the proposal that those two buildings remain.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded to recommend denial of file H-2018-0057. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion of denial carries. Okay, so at this time, we'd like to open the public hearing for item H-2018-0052, Fairborn Development. And we'll begin with the staff report.
Josh, turn your mic on, please.
Sorry about that, Dean. So before you this evening is an application for rezone, preliminary plat, and to modify an existing development agreement. The site consists of approximately 66.35 acres of land, which is currently zoned R15, R8, and CC, located at the northwest corner of West Chinden and North Black Cat Roads. Adjacent zoning is to the north is the Phyllis Canal, an agricultural property which is zoned RUT in Ada County. To the east is a future Black Cat Road, a single-family residential property in the Tree Farm subdivision, which is zoned R4 and R8, and a commercial nursery zoned CC and R5. To the south is Chinden Boulevard and single-family residential or agricultural land zoned RUT, and to the west is agricultural and residential property zoned R1 and RUT. In 2006, the subject property was annexed as the Tree Farm subdivision and was granted approval with R15, R8, and CC zoning districts, and a development agreement was executed upon annexation into the city. Several addendums to that DA have been recorded. In 2007, a third addendum to the DA was approved and recorded. They realigned the zoning district boundaries consistent with the approved preliminary plat. The comprehensive plan, future land use map designation for this property are 3. It's medium density residential, low density residential, and mixed use community. The subject property is governed by a development agreement that, as mentioned earlier, the proposed rezone is generally consistent with the concept plan that was approved with the Tree Farm annexation back in 2006. The applicant's requesting to eliminate the R15 zoned area and to reduce the CC zoning designation. The purpose of this rezone is to reduce the amount of commercial property and to increase the amount of residential property in the area. The applicant shall provide a concept plan for how the commercial property is going to develop. Staff report, we asked them for that, then realized that we actually indeed already had a concept plan. So here are 2 concept plans for what would be that, the hard northwest corner, the CC zone property, and how that would be conceptually developed in the future. So as I said, the applicant is going to be entering into a new development agreement for the property, moving back to the preliminary plat. Plat consists of 176 single-family building lots, 1 commercial lot, and 26 common lots on 66.35 acres of land. The R8 and CC zoning districts are appropriate for the proposed development, and the gross density for the subdivision is 2.82 dwelling units per acre. The R8 portion of the project, without the hard corner that CC, is approximately 62.41 acres of land. So as I said, 176 single-family residential lots. The approximate gross density for the R8 portion of the project is 2.82 dwelling units, as I said, which is slightly under the target density for the mixed density residential. But the CC portion of the project consists of 1 commercial lot and is approximately 4.8 acres in size. The applicant proposes to develop the project in 4 phases. There are several common drives, 4 in fact, on the project. We'll serve each of those, point them out for you if you'd like. It's not super important at the moment, but there are several. This portion down here on the south side of the project will be slightly more dense than the portion to the north. Chinden Boulevard is a state highway. UDC prohibits access to state highways at locations other than at section line roads or at the half mile between a section. The applicant is not proposing to access a state highway. Access for the development will be off of Black Cat Road, which currently is relatively unimproved. It will be required to be improved further with this development, and they're providing 2 stub streets to the west, future development. The applicant is proposing 8.97 acres, or approximately 14.4% of the development as open space. The applicant is proposing to include a clubhouse, a pool, a children's play structure, and a pedestrian walking path. Those proposed amenities there. Chinden Boulevard requires a 35-foot landscape buffer. It's considered an entryway corridor. The applicants propose to construct that 35-foot landscape buffer. You can kind of see here on the plat, there's the landscape buffer is required to be in a common lot with a residential subdivision. And as you can see, it does not continue along the commercial. There's also required to be a landscape buffer there, but it can be in an easement. The applicant's also required to provide a berm or berm wall combination against the state highway for any residential. So this whole portion here will be required to have a berm or berm wall as part of the project. Going back to the elevations that were provided for conceptual elevations, the applicant provided several conceptual elevations that provide a mixture of materials and elevations. Rear sides of structures that face North Black Cat or West Chinden shall incorporate articulation through changes in 2 or more of the following: modulation, bays, banding, porches, balconies, material types, or other integrated architectural elements to break up monotonous wall planes and roof lines are visible from either of those roads. Multi-use pathway is required to be constructed along Chinden Boulevard within the public use easement. certificate of zoning compliance and design review are required for specifically the clubhouse and pool area, as well as any commercial development that happens on that hard corner. With that, we did not receive any comments from the public. Staff is recommending approval. I'll stand for any questions you have on the application.
Any questions for staff?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Fitzgerald.
before we get started, I just want to make sure that the commission knows I live in the corresponding neighborhood next door in Swerving Greens, and I feel like I can be impartial, but I will leave that to my fellow commissioners. I don't have a problem, but I'll leave that to you guys.
I'm good.
I have no concerns.
Concerns?
Me neither.
Okay.
Okay.
You can
Thank you.
stay.
Thanks. Josh, how does this impact the Black Cat improvements on the corner with Costco development?
Knew you were going to ask that. We got the final staff report from ICHD at about 4:45 this afternoon, so I didn't have a ton of time to go. We can pull it up and kind of go through it, or I can look through it if you've got any other questions while I do that. Know that there's going to be, and Sam, the applicant, can I'm sure address that a little better than I can.
Okay.
I know there are some impacts as far as timing of when that's constructed. I believe that the Highway District, in coordination with ITD, is requiring that they build section from Chinden all the way up to whatever their road. Highland Falls, I think, is what's required to be constructed. North of that, they're not doing anything right now. There's going to be a bridge that goes over the Phyllis Canal eventually. I believe that my understanding is it will be a road trust for now. Fire and police have asked that they provide a gravel access road up there so that they can make sure they can provide emergency services to these lots up here in the corner. But no public road. I believe the right of way is dedicated, or will be. But there won't be a public road north of that. Yeah.
Any other questions for staff?
There was a condition from, Madam Chair, quickly. There was a condition with the Tree Farm subdivision that was approved to the east that, I can't remember what the lot number was, the threshold for when that needed to be built, and they're right at that right now. And so that this is going to happen in conjunction with all the property owners in the area. I suspect some of the other properties that are not developed will develop relatively soon, now that they're going to have to pay a bunch of money to build Black Cat Road. So,
Thank you.
Would the applicant like to come forward?
Thank you, Madam Commissioner. Commissioners, my name is Sam Johnson, 2701 East Pine Avenue in Meridian, Idaho, 83642. I appreciate your time tonight and appreciate working with staff on this application, and I'm glad to be before you tonight. We believe that this is going to be a great neighborhood. We want this to be a little bit more than just a standard subdivision. On paper, it looks like a standard subdivision, and we hope that some of the amenities that we're adding and the architectural control and the builder team that we've pulled together will make this a very good neighborhood and community for Meridian. Like Josh already mentioned, we decided we wanted to do a little bit less commercial than what was previously zoned, so we've reduced that down to 6.5 acres instead of 19 acres, given with all the commercial development that's going on a mile in either direction, east and west, with Costco at 10 Mile and the Highway 16 connections to the west. We started off with a Central Park that we feel is a great place to pull the community together in that neighborhood with a pool and clubhouse. We've felt from the start, as you can see on this drawing, does this mouse work? I don't see it moving. Do you guys see the mouse?
Oh, there he is.
There we go.
I can move it.
You got it? Okay. So On the right side, which is the rim lots, we've, as I've traveled the country, looked at different communities, one of the things I've admired about other communities is giving some view corridors when you have a rim lots such as these. We wanted to provide a little public space for the neighborhood to enjoy that view that we're, I don't know, 40 to 50 feet higher than the property to the north on the other side of the Phyllis Canal. So we've provided that pathway kind of there in the middle of those lots that then connects to that park there where the cursor is, kind of a secondary park. That park sits about 10 to 12, maybe 15 feet lower than the lots that are abutting it, and those are half-acre lots. And then there's a gentle slope down to the Phyllis Canal. We plan to fence that area and keep the neighbors out of the Phyllis Canal and that property. But and it states an amphitheater, but that's just one of our concepts. Is just a secondary park that allows the community and the neighbors to enjoy the views of that rim versus just a few select people that can afford those rim lots. That also helps create a kind of a loop of pathway systems that can help connect the community as a whole. We also have, starting from the rim with those half-acre lots, all the way fanning down and transitioning down to the lots that are clustered against Chinden. Those are as small as 4,000 square foot lots that are on the alleys. And so we wanted to create a good mix of products within this community. Only being 66 acres, we didn't want everything to be the same, and we wanted to be able to provide some various housing types at various price points. Speaking to the to Black Cat Road, we've been working with the adjacent landowners on improving that because it was just a little, maybe 1,000 feet of unimproved gravel road, kind of, so to speak, for many years. And that still remains, but that's changing now. Right there, kind of in the middle of of Black Cat, where that is part of the Tree Farm subdivision, that their second phase, that it's just been paved, and it's underway now. So between that between the cursor and Highland Falls, that area is already installed. And I just spoke with the developer of the Tree Farm subdivision this afternoon. They are planning their third phase, and it's under construction now, but they have a condition that before the signing of that third phase and final phase for them, that they have a 30-foot wide asphalt connection to Chinden. And they plan to pave that in August or September, here coming up soon. That's all the condition that they have. And part of our condition with ACHD is to, again, have Black Cat improved from Chinden to Highland Falls. And then north of Highland Falls, there's like Josh alluded to, ACHD doesn't want any improvements made except for a gravel access road at this time. They're requiring some funds to be put in a road trust from myself as well as M3 next door. So the right-of-way will be dedicated to them prior to final plat signing. And so that right-of-way will be there, but they don't want to improve that. There's no reason to have any access to homes or anything the way that it's designed. But they don't know the exact grading that the road will cross the Phyllis Canal yet. So they want to wait until they know exactly what's going to happen with the Phyllis Canal bridge, and then they will build that portion and finish that out of that portion of Black Cat. With going to the intersection of Black Cat and Chinden, my understanding is Costco has recently entered into, and a STARS agreement has now been signed by ITD and the developer of Costco and that neighborhood there next door. They have a condition that states that before they open their doors, they must have a signal at the Black Cat and Chinden intersection. Don't know exactly the timing. Their hope is that they would be opening sometime in 2020. Our condition from ACHD says that we have to have that intersection signaled and improved before our 112th lot, which would be our third phase. That was the threshold that they came up with out of studying our traffic study that we submitted many months ago. But we are required to have that intersection signaled either to its full width or to a temporary width by the time we have the signing of our final plat of our 112th lot. With that, I don't have anything else to share, and I'll stand for questions.
I do have a question on, there were some notes in the staff report about the Meridian Police and the fire have some concerns about that common area being back there where they can't get to it. Are they okay with that gravel road access? Or, I mean, I kind of like the idea of, having that open space back there for everybody to enjoy. I mean, I can see some nice benches and, but are they okay with that plan or?
Yes,
Okay.
I met with the police department who raised the concern a few weeks ago. They are okay, and I've got a written approval from them that a 14-foot wide, a minimum width of 14 feet wide gravel road down to that common lot with a Snoopy turnaround is what we've proposed is sufficient for what they're needing to be able to access that common lot.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, Madam.
On the color plat that was just up, I didn't see any kind of landscape buffer between the commercial area and the lots to the west. Is there going to be anything in there that's going to separate the two? I don't know if that's a requirement.
Oh, the block
Yes, I
7.
believe on the, as part of the conditions of approval for the
that's what I thought,
commercial
so.
lot, it will
You
have
got,
a.
Commissioner Peru, I will say that we don't require that with the residential portion. That will come in when that commercial property develops.
Be on the
It's a requirement
commercial
of the
side
commercial.
of the property.
And that buffer is depicted in the conceptual layout that we've shown.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. All right, thank you. Chris, do we have anybody signed up?
2 individuals signed in, but neither indicated that they wish to testify.
Okay. Is there anybody in the room who would like to testify at this time? Anybody change their mind? Okay. All right, if we don't have any other questions for staff or the applicant, could I get a motion to close the public hearing on item H-2018-0052?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing on H-2018-0052. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I think this looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, I was gonna, I mean, I don't want to just parrot what the developer said, but I do think that this doesn't look like kind of some of the standard subdivisions we develop, and I think kind of considering the expansion and the growth that's happening in Meridian, we can be a little choosy in what we expect, and I think that this is a pretty well put together proposal. I think the amenities look really good, and I don't think perhaps we could do much better, so I am supportive of this project.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Fitzgerald.
I agree. I think the mixture of types of size of lots, the types of houses that can go in there, and the gradient between size of lots up against Chinden all the way to rim lots and giving those a different look. And the view corridors, even though we don't want to put those into any kind of code, it's something that I think is the applicant's taking that into account. I think it's great because that is a significant difference off the side of that hill between going to the north. And so, and to allow the neighbors to have a park that runs along the Phillips Canal I think is great. And so now that they've met all the requirements from the police department and the ACHD, I think we're dialed in. As long as the applicants are working with the other surrounding neighborhoods with M3 and then the Costco development, I think it sounds like there's some synergy that is a positive for the city.
Mm-hmm. You agree?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I was just going to say, I tend to agree with the other comments made. I think they've done a nice job of giving a diversity of product out there. So there'll be some smaller lots, some bigger lots. I guess my only concern would be the amount of congestion that all of the development's going to cause out there off of Black Cat and Chinden. But it sounds like ACHD has worked with them to figure out when they need to have the timing of that light to meet that demand of how fast that growth's coming in.
Yeah.
So no other concerns for me.
Okay.
And it also reconnects back to Tree Farm Way.
Yeah.
Their light, so.
Yeah, I agree. I like the variety of lots. It looks like a very well thought out place.
And Madam Chair,
Commissioner Wilson.
let's see if I'm 3 for 3. After considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to City Council of file number H-2018-0052 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of July 12, 2018.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve file H-2018-0052. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Who would like the honors?
Greg.
Want to go 4 for 4?
No.
Madam Chair, I move we adjourn.
Thank you. Would anybody like to second that?
No. 3 for 3.
It has been moved and seconded that we adjourn the meeting. All those in favor
Thank you all for
say
joining
aye.
us this evening.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.